Are there cultural things we should be aware of for correct?
Yes. Yeah, we'll get into that in just a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. But I do want to say that I do have some teams who raise a significant amount of money and they apply it towards the travel loan. Because every refugee has to sign a travel loan document and they have to pay back the expense of their flight here. Yes, and buying within a 2-week window coming from, South Africa or Kenya or Thailand to here is expensive. I think the average loan is about $1,500 per ticket. So I do have teams who raise money to pay down those loans. That's absolutely something that we encourage, but it's not required by any means. 86% of all refugees pay back their loans in full. It's an interest-free loan. They have a lifetime to pay it back. They have to have a minimum payment of $35, and they start paying that back in 6 months post-arrival. Yeah, that's that for large families. That's a heavy debt. To know that you owe the government like $12,000. That's really amazing. To just have that on you all the time. To know I've got to pay all these bills. I've got to pay my rent. I've got to keep my kids safe. I've got to figure out how to use all these systems here, and now I owe $12,000. That just seems like too heavy a burden to me.
If we wanted to assume or make a contribution to that, would we work with you on that?
Yes, what we would do is that I would connect you with because we contract with 2 national or global resettlement agencies, Episcopal Migration Ministries and Church World Service. So there's 9 total, and we contract with those 2. And I would put you in contact with their case manager at that level, and she would take your payment. He or she would take your payment. Yeah, it can be you can mail in a check, or you can call in for your debit card. Yeah, if you wanted to do that. Yeah, that's a huge blessing. It really just the way that faces light up when they know their teams have paid down their travel loan. It's just the relief is palpable. It's really an amazing blessing. Okay, so after we have the apartment set up, we're going to look at airport arrival. Everyone's welcome. I will say that typically they're usually later at night. If they're coming through Chicago, they're always delayed. Chicago's the worst. There's always delays through Chicago. I will meet you there. If that's their port of entry, yeah, they've already gone through immigration before they come to us. Yeah, so we don't have to worry about that or that. Yeah, there's no wait for that. There's just the wait of them finding their way out.
How do you prepare these families for what they're going to be going through?
They receive a cultural orientation in their camps, but I don't think they're accurate. I don't think they're very good. That's my guess. When I was a little girl, there was this movie called An American Tale, and it has this little mouse named Fievel. And they were coming to America, and they sang the song of "There are no cats in America, and the streets are paved with cheese." I think there's a little bit of that in the orientation. That life is going to be easier, and you'll be connected to your family, and you're going to have jobs, and you'll have a house, and you'll have your own thing. So I think that there may be, there is a tendency in other cultures to really focus on the positive. And to really make it the positive really, really big. And be like, look at all these things that are going to be so good for you. Almost a little bit of a guilt trip. Don't feel bad about how hard it's going to be because look at all these good things you're going to have. Where the low notes aren't really touched on as much as we'd like. Yeah, so that here, I have a handout we can pass out just touching on that. This is we call the U-curve of cultural adjustment. When at the airport arrival, you'll see a really crazy mixture of emotions on the family's face. There's relief, there's exhaustion, there's nausea. For most of the families, I would say 99% of the families, they've never been on airplanes. Many of them have never been in an automobile. So this is a really huge, tummy tumultuous journey for them. So they're exhausted, they're nauseous, they're relieved, they're happy, they're terrified, they're hungry. So it's a really interesting mix, but they kind of arrive on a little bit of a high, that finally my life is beginning. And I think, if you've ever moved, you've probably experienced this. This new town is so great, and I love my new house, and, the school seems so great. And then as you adjust for refugees, they realize, oh my gosh, this is hard. The reality of bills and jobs, schools and medical appointments and paperwork and stuff management and bus schedules and language gap. It's so hard. There's so much, and they just kind of bottom out. And I think it's usually about 6 weeks in, 6 to 8 weeks in, they bottom out. And it's not uncommon for us to hear, I'll just go back to Africa. I'll just go back. It's so hard here. I am so lonely. Because in the camps, everything is out in the open. In the Thai camps, there's no doors on any of their huts. Everything is lived communally. They parent together, they cry together, they celebrate together, they cook together, they work together. Everything is together. And now they're in this little apartment, and it's not super sunny, and it's kind of cold outside for what they're used to, and their family is far away, and they have a door that they have to shut, and there's other people speaking other languages that they don't understand, and they feel very isolated and alone. So they kind of bottom out, and we have to let them feel what they're going to feel without taking it on and saying, hey, we need to do something. It's okay for them to bottom out, because that's when they say, okay, I can do hard things. And they start to climb back up to a more manageable level of emotions.
At some point, I hope you'll talk about the employment situation.
Sure.
How do you go about becoming self-sufficient in terms of wage pay?
Sure. Yeah, I can talk about that right now. So depending on which program they choose, MFIP or match grant or RCA, if they're a single or a married couple without children, the employment can go a couple different ways. Most Karen families choose MFIP because they plan, most of the leases that they sign are 6 months or month to month. They're short-term leases. It's a nice way to have a safe place for them to land and to be able to explore and say, okay, I want to be here longer, or no, I want to go. I want to move in with family. A lot of them do. A lot of them move in with family, or family, they combine resources and move into another house together. But most of the Karen families choose MFIP because they want to learn English for a longer period of time and keep their they say, you know what, we need to focus on learning the language more. We encourage employment quickly. We want to see people employed because self-sufficiency is so important. But there is kind of an undercurrent in a lot of the Korean communities that says learn English, then get a job, because you'll get a better job. And it's hard. It's hard to get a job when you don't speak the language. You're not going to be doing a very, very glamorous job at all. But
do you have colleagues that specialize?
yes, Jimmy Waycock, Brittany Hidma, and Nathan Wig are our 3 employment specialists. But if a family chooses MFIP, they don't have to have their employment come through us. They can go through any MFIP provider. There's lots of different organizations. KOM, which is the Korean Organization of Minnesota, is an MFIP provider, employment provider. HOP, the Hmong American Partnership, is an MFIP provider. And I can't remember the smaller ones that are in northern Minneapolis. But they don't have to choose us. And most of the Korean don't, because we're based in Minneapolis. And they're in St. Paul. And it's just not logical for them to take an hour-and-a-half bus ride to come meet with us and an hour-and-a-half bus ride back. So they choose a more local employment provider, or employment services provider. If they're match grant, it's all through us. And Jimmy and Brittany and Nathan work tirelessly to connect them to a job that's going to be a good success for them. A lot of them are out at the airport. A lot of the jobs are at the airport. Aerotech. We have jobs in Chanhassen and in Shakopee, different process, packaging plants, poultry plants, things. They're not glamorous jobs, but they are stable, and they have good pay, and they have benefits.
Most employment requires transportation.
Some of our larger employers provide transportation. They will send a van up, like the one down in Shakopee. And then what's the kind of Albert Lee? Yeah. We have an employer in Albert Lee who sends a van up to pick up everybody and bring them back home.
But we don't expect them to have driver's licenses.
Oh, no.
Money into a car.
We expect them to ride the bus. Yeah. And we'll help train them on the specific bus route to their employment. Yeah, and then we can also help connect them to training programs. International Institute has a personal nurse assistant program that a lot of our job seekers have completed, and then they get a job in nursing homes. That is actually a very prestigious job to refugee communities because it's caring for elderly, and elderly are very revered outside of our culture. And they also get to wear a uniform, and the uniform is it's a really respectful thing for refugees in their communities. If you have a uniform, then you are important. So if anybody fits that criteria real well, I say let's do that. If they want to do healthcare and if they have some English, let's get them enrolled in that. We also have hospitality training that we can sign up clients for, and that's mainly going to be cleaning hotels and working in kitchens. But those are good, stable jobs, and they're a place to start. They're hard jobs. They're not glamorous jobs, but they're paying jobs that are stable and have benefits that are going to create a good baseline for them to then move up the job ladder. So yeah, RCA can work through us or can work through HOP or KOM or another RCA provider. But if they're match grant, they're all through us. And yeah, we have that employment team, and they work really hard. And we have a really high employment rate. So I don't know the percentage offhand, but I know it's over 80%.
Who helps guide the family to decide if they want the match grant or the MSIP or the RCA? Does the finance team do that, or
yes.
do you do that?
I don't do it personally, but our team, our case manager and Chimmy, and Tarpa, who does RCA, meets with the family. It's called intake, where all of our services are described to them, and we lay out, here's kind of the paths you can take. Which one would you like? We let the family make their own choice in this. If we think match grant would be really good for them, but they have family members or community members who are saying, no, do MFIT and learn more English, they're going to go with their family on this one. But it has to be their choice. Even if it's not in their best interest, it has to be their choice.
Okay. Then another question, in the booklet that we have online on the website about, it's the refugee guide, it also makes reference to applying within the first week for public assistance.
Yes.
Is that the same thing as MFIP and RCA and
Yes,
MAP?
that's the public assistance.
Okay, so
yes.
that's not, we're not talking about two different things there.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The public assistance is the match grant or MFIP or RCA.
Okay.
Yeah, and that also, tied up in that is MNsure, the Medicaid, and their SNAP benefits, which is food stamps.
Okay, and that's all taken care of in the intake.
Well, intake, they make their decision, and then from there, we know where to go. If they choose MFIP or RCA outside of our office, they go to the county. If they choose match grant or RCA with our office, it's all done in-house.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you, being MCC.
Yes.
Notify us, being the church team, which way they've gone.
Yes.
And what needs
and
to be done.
whoever is with the family for intake, we invite you to be part of that meeting so that you hear everything as well and you know which way the families, which way they're going to go. And it helps you understand how, which way to support them more. If they choose match grant, employment is a huge focus because they need to be employed quickly within 4 months.
Okay.
Match grant will go up to 6 months, but typically 4 months is where we see people employed.
Okay. Then another thing that I read in the guide was that for match grant, it's important to keep track of all of the time and donations that are made.
Yes.
So we would be informed at that time too, get on top of this, you need to keep records.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll ask for summaries each week or each month for just kind of, I spent 4 hours practicing English this month, or I spent 3 hours on the bus, because we're required to report. We're federally required to report volunteer hours and donations. Yeah, so keep good track of all the furniture. Provide me a master list. It's absolutely my least favorite part. It's absolutely my least favorite part of co-sponsorship is that nitty-gritty detail. I need people's hours and the donations because nobody ever does it. So please do it. Yes.
Are there situations where the first job that the person's placed in doesn't work out? Continue to help out, or is it one and done?
No, we continue to help out. Yeah, and it happens frequently. I have 2 adopted sons, and we adopted them through foster care. And I love foster care very much. Once my kids are older, my husband and I will do foster care again. In foster care, you don't know if the kids are going to stay with you forever. You give them everything you can while they're with you to help break some of this old, the old wounding behaviors, to establish kind of a healthy base for them, whichever way they're going to go. And it happens a lot through failure. It happens a lot through making mistakes, making adjustments, and moving forward. It's the same way with refugee care. There's a lot of mistakes to be made because they have they have broken ways of doing things, or even if they're not broken, they're not how we do life here. So there's a lot of failure. There's a lot of times where, I heard Chimmy on the phone one time, and you know how when you speak to somebody in a different language, you tend to speak louder? That's true even for all of our staff who's been doing this for 20 years. Everybody speaks really loud on the phone, so we all hear each other's conversations. So Chimmy's talking to someone and he says, "Oh, why didn't you go to work?" And then I hear him say just a minute later, "Well, now you have no job." And apparently the guy had said, "Oh, well, I was just feeling a little tired and it was beautiful outside, so I decided to take the day home and go on a walk." And so Jimmy said, "Well, now you have no job because you have to go to work. When you are assigned a time, you have to go." So that happens quite frequently. Or it's not a good fit. They realize this is, it's way beneath me, or it's harder than I thought it would be, or it's too far, or the schedule isn't working out, or I'm not getting along with my coworkers. Any reason that we wouldn't have a job transition. It could just happen a little bit faster. But we'll continue to help them until the match grant, they have 6 months to be gainfully employed. And we have one family who arrived in January. It's a Somali family of 3. Their mom is pregnant, and they're one of my most favorite families ever. But the husband's name is Auden, and he has had 2 different jobs. One was permanent, but it was too far away because he got placed in St. Paul, which was very sad for a Somali family to be put in St. Paul, but it was the only housing available for that Somali family at that time. So they felt very isolated. He got a job at the airport, and it was tremendously long and arduous for him to take the bus out there every day. And he was working night shifts, and his wife was feeling so isolated and afraid. So he got a different job that was temporary, and now we're helping him find a permanent job right now. So yes, we keep going. We want to see everybody employed, and we want to, if it doesn't work, let's try again. We're always happy to make adjustments and move forward again. Yeah.
Yeah, so your employment specialists, do they have some magic they can work with the employment applications or just direct contact? Because I know there's a lot of employment applications. It's online, and the minute you say you don't have a GED, it just stops. It just turns it off.
We have a lot of employers that we work with who are okay with, they like to employ refugees. Like in Alberley and Shakopee, these larger plants like to hire refugees because they know it helps both of them. Because they know a lot of people aren't just going to go apply to gut chickens. So they know, hey, you need a job, you need employment history, you need a stable environment. We'll provide that, and you provide us, the skill and your time and your effort. And Adam, our case manager, current case manager Adam, worked in a poultry processing plant. And he worked there for a couple of years after he arrived. And he said it was okay after you got used to it, and then it was good money. So we have a lot of employers who we work with who want to employ refugees, and we're getting calls weekly from the spaghetti old spaghetti factory in Minneapolis called us and said, hey, we want to hire refugees, we want to help out in some way. So we get small employers like that who want to hire refugees, and we have larger companies. And it really requires, but it does require effort on the family's part. Some have really deep trauma, and it's just too difficult for them to think about going to work overnight. Or to, we have one who, he speaks really good English, but when push came to shove to working overnight, it was too much for him. It was just mentally overwhelming for him, and he said, no, I can only work during daylight hours, which pretty much knocked out everything that was going to be stable. And that happens. That, the reality is that happens sometimes. And so we need participation from the family as well. And, if they make choices that lead to failure, that's okay. Because that's, it's the American way to we're free to fail. We certainly are.
The family we aren't going to get.
Sure.
The father had apparently some education
Yes.
because he was a teacher.
Mhm.
So does he have to start with billion chickens?
Yeah, probably. Probably. Most education overseas doesn't translate here. When I was working with refugees in Chicago in 2001, we had this Afghan refugee. His name was Mr. Safi. He had 7 daughters. He was a professor in Afghanistan. He was very well respected, and he was wealthy in Afghanistan. He had a big house, and none of his education came here with him. And he had to assemble boxes in a staples factory. That was his job. So, that's another blow to refugees. It's it can be a real hard mental transition. My husband's worked really, really, really hard to move up the ladder in 3M, and if we had moved to another country and he was working in a factory, that would be really, really difficult for him. So some refugees have that journey ahead of them. I know. That's one reason I say it can be hard, but we just don't even understand how hard it is. All the different layers of that ugly onion. Okay, so, oh yes.
Sorry, one more. Can we go
Sure.
back to the arrival?
Yes.
You said, we all come, but how will we know, and this is sort of a general question, that how do you prevent against overwhelming?
Yes. Sure.
And what are some, and especially around that arrival, what are
Yeah.
some things that we should bring with us
Okay.
or not bring with us, do or not do, sort of help us with some expectations
Okay.
about how that.
What I'll do is I'll talk with the U.S. Thai to see what they think. If they say, I think this is going to be too long of a journey, let's, just have a few people, I'll communicate that to you all, and you can decide who will be there. We'll need a minimum of, however many vehicles we need to transport the family to the apartment. Sometimes some families love the big crowds. And I would say it's okay to have the big crowd at the airport as long as you are personally okay with chaos. Because it gets chaotic at the airport, especially if they have a lot of family members there. And sometimes there's 2 or 3 other resettlement agencies receiving other families there. So there's all these large groups scattered among the baggage waiting for families. So if you personally can handle the chaos of that, I say come and be a part of the arrival. It's a really unique experience. My mom is a college professor out in California, and she was out visiting me in March and got to be a part of an arrival. And she still talks about it. It still says, it changed me, Mel. It really just changed me seeing, because the family she got to see arrive, it was an elderly couple, and then their adult child and her children. And my mom just looked at them and saw her own parents and thought, I can't imagine that my parents would have to start life over and not know the language and have nothing and be cold. Because it's still cold in March, very cold. And so I think it's a good experience for kids too. If you feel like you want to bring your kids, I would say if you feel like you can handle your kids in that chaos, bring them. What I will do at the airport, we'll meet at baggage claim 13, about 15 minutes before the flight arrives. And we'll make sure we get together there. We'll find the U.S. Thai if they're there. And then once the family arrives, I'm going to be buzzing around in with the family because I have to have them sign some paperwork. I need to give them some money. I need to check their medication and see how they're feeling and document anything that needs to be documented with their health or well-being. So you have to kind of be ready to jump in and help with the family. Give toys to the kids if you want to. Water bottles are a good thing to bring. For Karen, they like cut limes. It helps with the nausea. Just the smell of it helps with the nausea. Coconut. I have had one team bring coconuts. At Double Dragon, you can get these coconuts that have been peeled and the hole drilled, and they have a straw sticking over it. They're saran wrapped. Those are always a big hit. They squat right down and drink them, drink them right up. The family will be overwhelmed, but that's okay. They're going to be overwhelmed no matter what. If there's 100 of you or if there's 2 of you, they're going to be overwhelmed. So it's going to be okay.
What about horsemanship?
Yes. We need a 5-point harness for ages under 4, rear facing for under 2, and booster seats for 4 to 8 years old. Yeah. All right, any of you moms with car seats right now? Booster seats? I've been buckling kids in for 14 years and I'm so over it. I'm so over it.
Do they have to be within the number of years? Like if you check recalls, you know what I mean? Like,
Yes, they can't.
be, like,
They can't be expired. Yeah, car seats expire 5 years after they're made. So there's a date that should be printed on the side. Yeah. Yeah, and again, if that's something that you guys that doesn't get donated to the team or can't be provided, just let us know and we'll make sure that it gets purchased for them.
Do you know if there's a general rule about photo taking or no photo taking?
They
Depending on their
generally
culture?
love to have their photos taken. The family will be there and will hand, generally I get like 15 cameras and start taking pictures of everybody. They will want you in all their photos. Before you share their photos, like on Facebook or in emails or anything, let's get their permission first. We can ask at the airport, we can ask a few days later. But know that if you're in any pictures, you will be on Facebook. You will be on their Facebook. They will get posted by their U.S. tie. Facebook is like the great equalizer, and it's fairly important actually that refugees get a Facebook account very, very quickly.
So how much do they know about what they're going to need at the airport? They know that there's a group of church
Nope,
folks.
they don't know anything.
Yeah.
They don't know that you're going to be matched up with them. There is always the potential for them to say, I don't want this. I've never seen that happen. Usually they are very happy for the help. And it gets explained at intake who you are. And usually at the airport, I explain too, these are your helpers. And they're going to be your helpers for the next couple of months. They're going to pick you up. I point out the people who are going to be picking up the next morning for Social Security or intake. So we talk about the benefits of a helper very, very much. And I haven't had anybody yet turn down a sponsorship,
So they won't have any information about what's happening at arrival. It's all going to be the next day when they start learning.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But they don't know what to expect anyways. That's a good thing. Is that they don't have a baseline to say, oh, it's different than expected. Because they don't have any expectations anyways. They don't know who's going to be waiting. They don't know what case manager is going to be there. They don't even know if their U.S. tie is going to be there. They don't know what their apartment's going to look like, what anything's going to look like, around them. They don't know if they're going to be in vehicles. Oh, and I do want to say I will provide you barf bags for your vehicles if you're transporting the family because sometimes it's just too much. They keep a lot in the car. Yeah, it happens. It happens a lot. Yeah, and they're so just torn up from all the travel.
You were saying, you keep on talking about this Korean family.
Oh, yeah. I
How
know.
old is the child? How old is the child? I know it's not confirmed. But
Yeah, I don't remember off the top of my head. I'll have to look at it again. Yeah. I'm trying to remember the name. I know that the child had a really unique name. A lot of younger Korean, like millennial Korean, I don't know though that Korean could really be millennial, but within that age bracket, they know they're going to come to America or Australia or Sweden or Canada, and so they give their kids really non-Korean names. Like we have one who is named, one of her sons Lucky, one named her son Lovely. We've had Christian Bieber.
I have a Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Oh, super cute. Yeah.
We had a really, really older Korean man, and his name was Cowboy. And his parents named him like they renamed him during the John Wayne era. Yeah, it was really funny. Just, my name is Cowboy.
So when they arrive here at MSP, this is the end of the journey. When
Yes.
They have left wherever they were, the refugee camp, and that trip ended here.
Yes. Yes. Well, I will end at their apartment, yeah. Yeah, but this is the...
But they haven't been stopping anywhere in between.
Oh, no, they haven't. A lot of times
But-
it's like Sometimes it's like Bangkok, LA to Chicago to
Okay.
here, or it depends on what airline they're on
Okay,
and where they're
okay, just a
going.
travel stop,
Yeah.
no stays anywhere.
Oh, no stays anywhere, just hopping from plane to plane. I know, the refugees who are coming from South Africa, they go like Johannesburg, like up to Germany, and then to New York, and sometimes then down to like Philadelphia before they come here. Sometimes there's 3 flights to get here, just within the United States. It's really remarkable. I just think, and they do with small children. I just think, oh, my kids would not do that.
And they're on laps all the way.
Yes, yeah.
Save
it's-
money.
Yeah. Adam told me the story of when he came over. He came with his brother, I want to say 5 years ago. And it was the first time he'd ever been on a plane. And he said he was so hungry because they're just hungry all the time in the camps. And so he was so hungry, he ate all of his food on the airplane, and then all of his brothers, and then was so sick and just kept throwing up. And he said, and I didn't know any better, and I didn't know what to do, so I just left my bag on the tray table when I left the airplane. Oh gosh, horrible. Everything they have to go through, that they've never done before. It's really just trial by fire getting here. But after the arrival, we'll get their baggage. If they're coming from like Thailand or Kenya, they're not going to have very much baggage. If we've had rarely we get families from who've been in refugee situations in like Dubai. They come with a lot, like a lot. But that's not very common. Sometimes refugees coming from Egypt will have a little bit more. If they're coming from, we've had them come from Jordan and even some from Syria. Like a Somali family came from Syria last year. I just thought this is so bizarre that they were given refuge in Syria, and Syria won't give its own people refuge. Yeah. They come with a little bit more. If we see Syrians coming from Europe, they'll probably have more luggage. But generally, it's like the Karen have bags that are like this big, and they have 2 or 3 for the whole entire family. My very first co-sponsorship with MCC, it was a November arrival, and we get to the airport, and Dad's unpacking his bag, and it's like tank top, and I just thought, oh no, you are not prepared for this. So after we do the arrival, we'll get their luggage, we go to their apartment. They are going to be too tired for us to do a thorough safety orientation. So I will walk through, and anybody can jump in on it, and I'll just give brief safety instructions. If there is no English capacity with the family, and the U.S. Thai doesn't speak English, we will provide a translator. It'll be either Adam, or Mohammed, or Miriam, or Tarpa, or Chibi, any of our Karen, Bhutanese, or Somali, or Arabic speakers. If we need other translation, we hire out translators. We have a Russian translator right now for our former Soviet Union refugee families. If we get Congolese, we'll need to hire a French speaker. So if there's language needs, we'll make sure that needs met. And then if it's Adam or Miriam, they'll walk through and translate whatever we say for the safety instruction. I do basic things like locking doors. Many of them have never had doors to lock, and they don't know how to do it, and teaching them how to use their key. The idea of cooking inside is really overwhelming to a lot of Korean families. They've only cooked over an open fire pit. So cooking in this building where there's 10 other people cooking, how are we not all going to burn to death? So we show them the stove, how to turn on and off the stove. We talk about if you smell, let them smell the gas coming out of there and say, if you smell this a lot, check the knobs, and if it still smells like that, go outside, call 911. So basic stuff. They're not going to retain a whole lot that first time. We used to do, or to use the toilet. Use the toilet is a big one. Yeah, a lot of them have not been exposed to that. My husband and I, when I first started working with refugees in Chicago, my husband and I befriended some Sudanese lost boys, and we had them to our house within their first few days of arrival. And after we took them back home, I realized that they had been urinating in the bathtub. Because they just didn't know. So I scrubbed it down and explained it to them, and it was all okay from there on out.
This is an ignorant question.
Sure.
And I need to ask it. let's say a family's coming from South Africa,
Yeah, there's Somali refugees in South Africa.
so they're actually,
Yeah, not South Africans, although their children are technically South African.
so I'm not questioned, I was just wondering when the refugees become an immigrant.
Okay, yeah, I can talk about immigration real quick. Refugee status is never going to be revoked. They, as long as they don't commit crimes, certain levels of crimes, then they will always be eligible to stay here as a refugee. It's stamped on their I-94. I check it when they get off the airplane to make sure they have that stamp. In 1 year, they're required to apply for a green card, which is their permanent residency. That's a requirement, and they can come to us, and we do that for free for them. In 5 years, they can apply for citizenship. Not every refugee does, because you need a certain language level of English to take the citizenship exam, but a lot do. If they have the capacity to learn the language and to learn what they need to learn, they like to become citizens. But they are permanent residents here. Yeah, so they get their EAD card about a month after they arrive. That's their employment authorization document. It's a little card, and they need that for employment. That comes about a month after they arrive. And once they have their EAD, you can take their EAD, their I-94, and their lease to get a state ID.